The vast, dark expanse of space seemed ordinary that morning. Ji-Woo Park sat at his computer terminal, monitoring routine satellite transmissions at the International Space Research Center in Seoul. His coffee grew cold, untouched, as his fingers danced across the keyboard. Suddenly, the monitoring screens flickered. Strange symbols and mathematical sequences began streaming across multiple displays. Ji-Woo leaned closer, his breath catching in his throat. This wasn't a normal transmission. This was something entirely different. The first alien communication arrived without fanfare. No dramatic music, no Hollywood-style dramatic entrance. Just a series of precise, calculated signals that cut through Earth's communication networks like a knife through paper. Most researchers would have dismissed it as a technical glitch, but Ji-Woo was different. He noticed patterns, intricate mathematical sequences that seemed to pulse with an intelligence beyond human understanding. The signals carried a complexity that suggested not just communication, but a kind of technological language more advanced than anything humanity had ever encountered. As Ji-Woo analyzed the transmission, his colleagues began to realize something extraordinary was happening. Dr. Kim, the senior research director, rushed into the control room. Her face was pale, her hands trembling slightly as she looked at the screens. "Are you seeing this?" she whispered. Ji-Woo nodded, his eyes never leaving the complex data stream. The signals weren't just random noise, they were a message, a warning. An announcement of something massive approaching. Within hours, global satellite networks began picking up similar transmissions. Military installations worldwide went into high alert. Governments started emergency meetings. The world was about to change forever. The Alien Confederation didn't announce their arrival with dramatic speeches or threatening broadcasts. Instead, they sent precise mathematical coordinates and a simple message: prepare for integration. Most people didn't understand what was happening, but Ji-Woo understood something crucial. These weren't just aliens. These were beings with a technological understanding so advanced that their very communication was a form of potential weapon. Military analysts started calculating potential invasion scenarios. Intelligence agencies began decrypting the strange transmissions. But Ji-Woo saw something different. He saw a puzzle, a challenge. While politicians discussed potential surrender and military leaders prepared defensive strategies, Ji-Woo began something unprecedented. He started analyzing the transmission's underlying structure, looking for weaknesses, searching for patterns that might reveal the aliens' fundamental communication logic. His team thought he was crazy, but Ji-Woo knew that understanding came before survival, and understanding required looking beyond the obvious. The first physical evidence of the alien approach came 3 days after the initial transmission. Massive shadow-like objects began appearing at the edge of Earth's orbital range. They weren't ships in the traditional sense. They were more like living technological structures that seemed to bend and shift with an almost organic intelligence. Satellite imaging couldn't capture their true nature. Radar systems struggled to track their movements. They existed in a state between matter and energy, defying every known scientific principle. Ji-Woo worked continuously, surviving on energy drinks and determination. He knew humanity's first response would determine everything. Panic was not an option. Understanding was the only path forward. As the alien structures drew closer, humanity held its collective breath. Some people prayed. Some prepared for war. Some simply waited, hoping for a miracle. But Ji-Woo Park did something different. He continued analyzing. He continued searching. While the world around him prepared for potential destruction, he looked for a way to communicate, to understand, to potentially negotiate. The Alien Confederation was about to learn something important about humans. They weren't just another species to be conquered. They were adaptable, they were resilient, and most importantly, they were unpredictable. Ji-Woo's fingers moved across the keyboard, decoding, analyzing, understanding. The first contact was about to begin, and humanity's response would change everything forever. In that moment, as massive alien structures began casting shadows across Earth's atmosphere, Ji-Woo Park represented something fundamental about human nature. the unwavering desire to understand, even in the face of the unknown. The invasion was coming, but humanity would not go quietly. The first alien attack came without warning. Massive energy beams sliced through city skylines, turning concrete and steel into molten liquid. Seoul, Tokyo, New York, London, no major city was spared from the initial assault. Yeonsu, Kim watched from the military command center as entire districts disappeared in moments. The alien technology was unlike anything humans had ever seen. Traditional weapons seemed like children's toys against their advanced weaponry. Military commanders looked defeated. Governments began preparing surrender documents. The world seemed ready to accept its fate. But Yeonsu was different. She saw something others missed. The alien attacks, despite their incredible power, followed a specific pattern. They were systematic, predictable, and in that predictability lay a weakness. Her fingers flew across computer screens, analyzing attack trajectories. Most people saw destruction. She saw a complex mathematical equation waiting to be solved. In small underground bunkers and hidden research facilities, small groups of scientists and military strategists began their quiet resistance. They weren't planning a traditional war. They were planning something far more sophisticated. Jiwoo's initial communication research became their primary weapon. The mathematical patterns he had decoded became the foundation of their resistance strategy. They realized the aliens communicated through precise technological signals. If they could disrupt those signals, they could potentially confuse the entire invasion force. Small teams began developing unconventional weapons, not massive rockets or traditional military hardware, but complex electronic devices designed to send contradictory signals, to create technological noise that would interfere with alien communication networks. The first successful test happened in an abandoned semiconductor factory outside Seoul. A small device no larger than a laptop sent out a series of carefully constructed signal disruptions. For just 3 minutes, the nearby alien monitoring systems went completely silent. It was a small victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. Yeonsu understood something fundamental about the invasion. The aliens expected a traditional response. They expected humanity to fight with physical weapons or surrender completely. Instead, humanity would fight with intelligence, with creativity, with an ability to adapt that the aliens could not comprehend. Military units that survived the initial attacks began reorganizing. No more massive formations that could be easily targeted. Instead, they became smaller, more mobile units. Teams that could move quickly, strike unexpectedly, and disappear before the aliens could respond. In rural areas, farmers and local communities became unexpected resistance fighters. They knew their terrain. They understood local environments. They could move and communicate in ways that technologically advanced aliens couldn't predict. The alien confederation began to realize something was different about humans. Their invasion, which was supposed to be a simple integration process, was becoming complicated. Yeonsu's team developed more advanced signal disruption technologies. They created devices that could mimic alien communication frequencies, sending false information, and creating confusion within the invasion force. Some attacks were psychological, broadcasts that seemed to come from alien command structures, sending conflicting orders. Electronic signals that made alien targeting systems essentially blind. The resistance wasn't about winning through pure military might. It was about making the invasion so complex, so unpredictable, that the aliens would question their entire strategy. Young hackers, computer specialists, communication experts, they became the new frontline soldiers. Their weapons were lines of code, complex algorithms, and an understanding of technological communication that the aliens had not anticipated. Global communication networks, which the aliens thought they had disabled, found new ways to communicate. Satellite networks were rebuilt using improvised technologies. Underground communication systems were established using old technologies that the aliens couldn't easily track. Humanity was fighting back, not with brute force, but with intelligence, creativity, and an unexpected ability to adapt. The alien, Confederation had made a crucial mistake. They had underestimated humans, and now they would pay the price. Yeonsu Kim looked at her team, a small smile crossing her face. The real war was just beginning, and humanity was ready. Sungmin Lee stared at the computer screen, his eyes burning from hours of continuous work. The alien technology seemed impossible to crack, but he saw something others missed. A tiny vulnerability hidden within complex communication networks. Most scientists had given up. The alien technological infrastructure appeared impenetrable, a maze of quantum signals and advanced computational systems that seemed to defy human understanding. But Sungmin wasn't most scientists. His breakthrough came unexpectedly. While analyzing captured alien communication fragments, he noticed a repeated mathematical pattern, not just a simple repetition, but a subtle weakness in their quantum encryption system. It was like finding a microscopic crack in an otherwise perfect wall. Working from a hidden underground research facility in the mountains outside Seoul, Sung Min assembled a small team of the world's most brilliant computer engineers and quantum physicists. They weren't just trying to understand alien technology. They were attempting to reverse engineer it completely. The first successful prototype was nothing impressive to look at. A small device, about the size of a smartphone, that could send out specific signal disruptions. During initial tests, it managed to create a 3-second communication blackout in a nearby alien monitoring station. 3 seconds might not sound significant, but in technological warfare, 3 seconds could change everything. Global resistance groups began sharing Sungmin's research through encrypted channels. Underground networks of hackers, scientists, and military strategists started adapting. His initial breakthrough, they weren't just defending anymore, they were preparing to fight back. The alien confederation had expected a straightforward invasion, technologically superior weapons, complete communication control, total submission of the human species. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that refused to follow expected patterns. Sungmin's team developed more advanced disruption technologies, devices that could mimic alien communication frequencies, systems that could send false information directly into alien communication networks. It was like creating a technological virus that spread confusion and uncertainty. Military units started receiving these new technologies, small portable devices that could temporarily blind alien tracking systems, communication tools that could send contradictory signals, creating massive confusion within the invasion force. The breakthrough wasn't about creating more powerful weapons. It was about understanding the alien technology's fundamental weakness, its reliance on precise, predictable communication systems. Younger generations became unexpected technological warriors. Computer hackers, network specialists, communication experts. They were now the frontline soldiers in this new type of war. Their weapons were lines of code, complex algorithms, and an understanding of technological communication. Global communication. Networks, which the aliens thought they had completely disabled, found new ways to communicate. Satellite systems were rebuilt using improvised technologies. Underground communication systems used old technologies that the aliens couldn't easily track. One of Sungmin's most significant discoveries was how the alien technological systems processed information. They were incredibly advanced, but followed strict linear logical patterns. Humans, by contrast, could think irrationally. They could make unexpected jumps in logic that the alien systems couldn't predict. During one critical test, Sungmin's team managed to completely disable an alien communication hub, not through brute force, but through a series of carefully constructed signal disruptions that essentially confused the entire system. The alien confederation began to realize something was fundamentally different about humans. Their invasion, which was supposed to be a simple technological domination, was becoming increasingly complicated. Governments and military organizations that had initially prepared to surrender now saw a potential path to resistance. Sungmin's work provided hope. It showed that humans weren't just going to accept defeat. As alien ships continued to hover menacingly above major cities, small resistance groups used these new technologies to create unexpected disruptions. A communication blackout here. A targeting system failure there. Small victories that began to add up. Sung-min knew they were just beginning. The real technological war was just starting. But for the first time since the invasion began, humanity had a fighting chance. The aliens had made a crucial mistake. They had underestimated human creativity, human adaptability, and human determination, and now they would pay the price. Sung-min looked at his team, a spark of hope in his exhausted eyes. The real battle was just beginning. Yoonji Choi understood something fundamental about conflict that most military strategists missed. War was as much about mental manipulation as physical confrontation. The alien confederation operated on strict hierarchical communication systems. They processed information like perfect machines, expecting logical responses. Humans were different. Humans could be unpredictable, chaotic, emotional. From her small research facility in Busan, Yoonji began developing psychological warfare strategies that would fundamentally challenge alien understanding of conflict. Her first breakthrough came from studying alien communication patterns. They expected direct, rational responses, so she would give them anything but rational responses. Small teams began broadcasting complex, contradictory information streams, messages that seemed logical at first glance but contained subtle inconsistencies that would drive the alien systems into computational confusion. Imagine sending a communication that appeared to be a standard military report, but contained mathematical equations that slowly transformed into nonsensical poetry. Or transmission signals that started as technical data and gradually morphed into human emotional expressions. The aliens' computational systems couldn't process emotional complexity. They understood logic, mathematics, strategic planning, but they couldn't comprehend human creativity, humor, or emotional unpredictability. Resistance groups worldwide started implementing these psychological techniques. In Tokyo, hackers created digital art that contained hidden communication codes. In New York, musicians developed sound frequencies that disrupted alien tracking systems. Yoonji's team discovered that the alien confederation had a fundamental weakness. They couldn't understand improvisation. Their entire technological and social structure was based on predetermined algorithms and expected responses. Humans, by contrast, could think outside any predetermined system. They could make illogical jumps. They could respond with creativity that defied mathematical prediction. One particularly successful operation involved broadcasting massive amounts of human cultural content, music that didn't follow standard mathematical structures, art that challenged visual perception, literature that contained multiple interpretative layers. The alien monitoring systems began to experience what could only be described as a computational breakdown. They were trying to analyze human cultural expressions using logical mathematical frameworks and failing spectacularly. Military strategists started calling these psychological disruption techniques cognitive warfare. They weren't just fighting with traditional weapons. They were fighting with human imagination. Small resistance groups began developing more advanced psychological manipulation techniques. They would send communication signals that contained multiple layers of meaning, transmissions that seemed straightforward but contained hidden emotional complexity. The alien confederation began experiencing something they had never encountered before: systematic uncertainty. Their entire invasion strategy relied on predictable responses. Humans were providing anything but predictability. In communication centers across occupied territories, alien computational systems started experiencing what humans might call mental breakdown. They were receiving information that didn't fit any known processing model. Yoonji's team discovered that emotional complexity was their most powerful weapon. The aliens could easily destroy physical infrastructure, but they couldn't comprehend the human capacity for hope, for unexpected resistance, for finding humor in the darkest situations. Resistance groups started sharing these psychological warfare techniques through underground networks. Young hackers, artists, musicians, they became unexpected soldiers in this new type of conflict. One particularly brilliant operation involved creating massive digital art installations that contained hidden communication codes, paintings that looked random but contained precise mathematical disruption signals, music that seemed chaotic but carried specific technological interference patterns. The alien confederation was slowly realizing they had made a crucial mistake. They had approached humans as another species to be conquered. Instead, they had encountered a civilization that could turn creativity itself into a weapon. Yunji understood that psychological warfare wasn't about destroying the enemy. It was about making them question their entire understanding of conflict as alien ships continued to hover menacingly above major cities. Small human resistance groups were fighting back, not with traditional weapons, but with human imagination, creativity, and an ability to think beyond predetermined systems. The real war wasn't happening on battlefields. It was happening in communication networks, in digital spaces, in the complex landscape of human creativity, and humanity was just getting started. Yunji looked at her team, a small smile crossing her face. The most powerful weapon was never a gun or a missile. The most powerful weapon was human unpredictability. Jae-hoon Park stood at the Global Resistance headquarters, watching the final stages of humanity's counterattack unfold. The world had changed forever, and no one understood this more than him. The alien confederation had never expected a coordinated global response. They had anticipated fragmented human resistance, easy to crush and control. Instead, they found a species that could unite in ways the aliens couldn't comprehend. Global communication networks, rebuilt using a combination of old and new technologies, suddenly came alive. Every resistance group, every hidden research facility, every surviving military unit was now connected. Not through traditional military channels, but through a complex web of technological and psychological communication. The counterattack began quietly, not with massive explosions or dramatic space battles, but with a series of precisely coordinated disruptions that would slowly tear apart the alien invasion infrastructure. Sungmin's technological breakthroughs provided the tools. Yoonji's psychological warfare strategies provided the approach. Jiwoo's initial communication research provided the fundamental understanding. Now Jae-hoon would provide the final execution. The first wave of the counterattack targeted the aliens' communication networks. Massive signal disruptions created computational chaos. Alien ships began experiencing system-wide failures. Their precise, mathematically perfect communication networks suddenly became nothing more than complicated noise. Military units that had been waiting, preparing, suddenly moved with incredible coordination. They weren't fighting a traditional war. They were executing a complex, multi-layered strategy that combined technological disruption, psychological manipulation, and pure human creativity. In major cities around the world, resistance groups launched simultaneous operations. In Seoul, hackers sent complex signal disruptions. In New York, specialized teams used captured alien technology against their creators. In Tokyo, communication specialists created massive interference patterns that confused alien tracking systems. The alien confederation discovered something terrifying. Humans could adapt faster than any technological system could predict. Where alien technology expected linear responses, humans provided chaos. Where alien communication systems expected precise mathematical patterns, humans introduced unexpected creativity. Jae-hoon watched as global communication networks displayed the counterattack's progress. It wasn't a traditional military operation. It was more like a complex planet-wide dance of technological and psychological warfare. Alien ships began falling from orbit, not destroyed by massive weapons, but systematically disabled by precise technological and psychological disruptions. Their advanced computational systems couldn't process the complex, multi-layered human response. The final blow came from an unexpected source. Global communication networks, which the aliens thought they had completely disabled, suddenly came alive. Not with traditional military communications, but with a complex mix of cultural content, mathematical disruptions, and psychological interference. Imagine billions of humans, connected through improvised communication networks, sending out signals that were part technical disruption, part cultural expression, part pure human imagination. The alien confederation had no framework to process such a response. Their invasion, which was supposed to be a simple integration process, had become a complex nightmare of unexpected human resistance. Jae-hoon understood something fundamental. This wasn't just a war of technology or military might. This was a war of species-level creativity. Humanity was showing the universe something profound. They were not just another species to be conquered. As the last alien ships began falling from orbit, a strange sense of unity spread across the planet. Humans who had previously been divided by national, cultural, or ideological differences now stood together. They had faced an impossible threat and emerged not just surviving, but triumphant. The alien confederation had made a crucial mistake. They had seen humans as a primitive species, easy to conquer. Instead, they had encountered a civilization capable of turning creativity, adaptability, and collective imagination into the most powerful weapon in the universe. In the final moments of the counterattack, something extraordinary happened. Humans weren't just defending themselves, they were declaring their place in the universe. Jae-hoon looked at the communication screens, watching the alien invasion infrastructure collapse. Humanity had not just survived. They had transformed a potential extinction event into a defining moment of species-wide evolution. The universe would now know, humans do not cower, humans fight, and more importantly, humans create. As the last alien ship disappeared from Earth's orbit, a new chapter in human history began. Humanity had made its declaration.